Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This week's show, we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Welcome to Japan, Miss Elf, Season 1, Episode 6. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So obviously in the aftermath of that new underground dungeon being unlocked, Kazuhiro's got in his mind that he wants to go in there with Marie, but Marie has her limitations because of her ranking in the Sorcerer's Guild. She doesn't think they'll let her go. So if anything, if they do, if Kazuhiro wants to go exploring, he's going to have to join someone because they're going to want to send a higher ranked person, so he'd have to go with someone else, which for him it's kind of a moot point. If I'm not doing it with you, then I don't want to go, which is very sweet and endearing. But it makes you wonder, what is Kazuhiro's ranking then? If he's I guess because he seems to be a freelancer, I think it's specifically maybe if Marie wasn't associated with a guild, she'd be able to kind of go, I guess, considering Kazuhiro doesn't seem associated with a guild. Maybe he is, and I just don't remember them referencing that. But he just kind of seems to be able to do whatever he wants to. But he could also just be I don't know if they ever specify what level he's at too. So maybe that plays a part in he's strong enough to somewhat be able to have the free reign to do whatever he wants. So now it's a situation of trying to determine how they're going to handle that situation. Because even Marie was well, we do have the ability to kind of come back to this world, so we could rely on that. So that kind of gives us an advantage. But Kazuhiro's yeah, but I don't fully want to rely on that. Oh, we can't really die because if we kind of quote unquote die in that world, we'll pop back here in Japan. But he's I don't really want to rely on that. We could rely on it in the sense of we don't have to carry a lot of supplies with us. We normally have to carry a week's supply of food. But it's well, we can travel pretty light, sleep there at night, and then be back here in Japan. So it's we're fine on that front. But Kazuhiro's really thinking about how they're going to approach this situation, because Marie does point out there is kind of a not loophole, but there is a way around this situation. If they can prove themselves worthy of being able to handle a place dangerous like that, then they'll kind of Marie will be able to despite her rank, still be able to go if they can prove themselves. But now for Kazuhiro, it's well, thinking back on the bandit situation for the last two episodes, it's well, we barely kind of got out of that situation, and luckily nothing happened to Marie, but I'm not strong enough to protect her on my own. So he's we're going to need another party member. He's me and Marie handle things on a more offensive front. We're not really good at the defensive angles to it, and because yes, he has his evasive skills, but even then he uses those mainly for offense, and it's that doesn't mean much when they really get into the nitty gritty and you're going to need defense. So he's we're going to need a tank, but he's I don't know anyone that could fill that bill, and I also don't have the income to pay and hire someone like that. My immediate thought was, because we saw her in this episode, would be the dragon, because she's in the intro and the outro, so I guess she becomes their third party member. Those two, I guess Kazuhiro kind of acts as the evasion tank, not invasion, he could probably play a similar role to an evasion tank, but he's just an evasive mainline attacker, whereas Marie attacks from a distance, and you're going to need someone to be your more defensive person. I'm assuming it's going to be her, considering she's the only other major character we know in this series. So, but like I said, we also saw her in this episode because she knows about the dungeon that got unlocked, because she's oh, that's interesting. The humans don't even know how dangerous that place is. Her eggs are hatching, and she's oh, this is a once in a millennium type of situation, and she wishes that Kazuhiro and Marie could see it, but she's I'll see them again eventually. And then she's also yeah, but also that bento box was really pretty dope. I hope I get another one. So that's another motivation for why you want to see them again. But yeah, I'd assume that's how she's going to fold into the story even more and kind of act as an ally for both of them in that regard, as a party member. We'll see where things kind of go on that front going forward. But other than that, I'm trying to remember if this is the first episode where Kazuhiro's had to go to work and leave Maria home alone. It might not be. I just don't remember. Once again, I'm getting to this so slowly that it's there's so much space in between some of these episodes for me, so I don't remember. But obviously, she's cleaning up the house, and you can tell obviously she's a little sad, because more often than not, especially because Japan's such a foreign land to her, and she's experienced so much stuff, but she's always had Kazuhiro there, and now it's the house is really empty without him. So she's cleaning up, she cooks the meal, and knows oh, he got the things that he like built it around my preferences. So she's watching anime to learn Japanese, but she's also watching it just for entertainment purposes and getting to eat. So, but then you have Ichijo reaching out to Kazuhiro, and it's like, oh, me and my husband would love to go hang out with you and Maria. It's like, how are things going with that book? And it's like, oh, she's really loving it, stuff like that. And normally he's like, normally I'd kind of ignore the situation. But thinking about how Ichijo and Maria Bell, like, it's like Maria Bell's like first friend, so it's like, no, I need to make more, because it almost seems like he's not a very social person. It does seem like he does just keep to himself, but even he's like, no, like I kind of got to get a little out of my comfort zone. And he talks about it with Marie later on, the whole conversation about, yeah, the same environment can be so different when you're experiencing it with someone else. You're kind of getting an experience not only through their eyes of like she's seeing all this for the first time and being so enamored by it, but also it gives you this experience of being able to experience it with someone. So him teaching her about coffee, adding sugar and milk to it, but then like hanging out with Ichijo and her husband, and like Marie's like introduction, both of them were captivated by it, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're she's just so cute. And then Ichijo, she's just like constantly elbowing her husband, like, what are you doing, stop it, and then they went to eat at a French restaurant, and we don't get privy to all the conversations, but it seemed like it's just a nice, fun hangout. And like I said, I think it's really nice for Maria, but I think it's also not Marie. I think it's really nice for her, but I also think it's nice for Kazuhiro because I don't think he does that often. So it was kind of a nice thing for both of them, even to the point it's like, oh yeah, like they learned that she's learning Japanese through an anime that she's really a big fan of, and Ichijo's like, oh my god, I'm a big fan of that too. Even to the point later on, it's like when it's all said and done, it's like, hey, like maybe one day like I could invite Maria Bell like over to like enjoy like anime with me. I could show her all these like DVDs and stuff. And for Kazuhiro, it's like, it's better than her just kind of spending all that time alone. So he really appreciates it. But also he's like a little scared for her out in Japan on her own. And it's like Maria Bell's like, there's no monsters here, so I don't have to worry about that. He's like, yeah, but like, we might not have monsters, but we do have dangers, and those dangers are other people. So it's like, he's like, yeah, things have kind of been what they are in the world. Like, people can be dangerous, and he's scared for her. So yeah, he's very overprotective of her. It's understandable. It's like she's in this strange land, and she's enamored by it. She's only seen the good sides of it. She hasn't seen the bad sides. But I mean, to be fair, she's seen the good and bad sides of her world, but it's a little different when you're so enamored with the beauty of Japan, not knowing like, well, yeah, like, the thing is, I as a person who's lived here and seen and been on the news and just seen like the way of the world, and even just here in Japan, how people can suck, so. But it's kind of like, he's kind of have to loosen that grip a little bit and stop being so overprotective. But obviously they're very thankful for each other because of this whole situation, because she's like, for Maria, it's like, I keep saying for Marie, it's like, whether it's in Japan or whether it's in her world, when it's all said and done, it's chatting with other strangers is not easy. But for her, it's always going to be easier it's always obviously nicer to kind of go through things with the person you're most comfortable being around. Because it's so interesting, because obviously like when we meet both of them at the beginning of the series, like they already were acquainted enough, so that must mean they already had like a decent rapport, and obviously it's getting better and better, and there's obviously like an inkling, because obviously the conversation came up with Ichijo and her husband about like, oh, like, are you guys really relatives, because you seem pretty close. It's like, are you dating? He's like, no, I'm not. It's like, obviously he's super into her and she's starting into him too, but neither one of them's fully like confronting that in typical anime fashion. So we'll probably never get it, but I'd be so curious to know what their first interactions were kind of like. I mean, how long into this whole thing, like, did, going to that world and stuff, because obviously he's been going since he was a kid. How long in that time frame did he meet Maria? Has it been like a more recent development or what? Speaking on all that too, they do have the conversation of her kind of lamenting like, well, we don't really have a solution for the whole dungeon thing because we kind of got sidetracked, so we weren't thinking about solutions for it like we should. So most likely, if Kazuhiro, once again, what always throws me off is because he's Kazuhiko for her, but every for him, he's going to have to bring someone from the Sorcerer's Guild. So I wonder, is that how that's going to play out, or what is it going to? Because like I said, there's no other characters we've really seen in the intro or the outro, not unless he meets up with the dragon, and that's what kind of changes. Like, oh, we could approach it this way. I don't know. We'll have to wait to see where things kind of go on that front. But I'm interested to see how that all plays out next episode, where we kind of deal with that immediately, or we stay in Japan for another episode. Figuring things out more on just kind of like, the whole Ichijo and Marie hanging out thing. So interested to see where this all goes going forward. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.